regular meeting of the Town of Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission to order on Monday, January 24th, 2022, 7 p.m. here in the Merrill Sinet Community Room of Thompson Town Hall and via Zoom as well. We will begin with a roll call.
Mike Kugel. Dave Kaplowski.
Right.
Ray Williams.
Jane Salcy.
Randy Blackmore. Mr. Linke.
John B. Lanky.
Alvin should be up there.
I do expect Alvin to be coming in, but he's not here yet.
I would like to move to amend the agenda to include under section 9 correspondence, 9F, sub-petition for an approval of an eligible facilities request for an existing telecommunications facility at 720 Quinnebog Road, Quinnebog. Motion made by Mr. Blackmer, seconded by Mr. Williams. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, where are you moving it to?
9F under correspondence. Any further discussion? We are adding the sub-petition for an approval of an eligible facilities request. It's got a long title.
I'll give you a copy for
I'm just going to give you a copy so you have the title and for the record. Any further discussion? Hearing none without objection, the agenda will be amended. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the agenda is amended to add 9F. Item 2, public hearing, Planning and Zoning Commission application 21-47, applicant Town of Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission. Amendment to Article 5A, Section 5. Sorry, I'm gonna pause myself and before I get into that. We do have, if anyone hasn't picked up an agenda yet, there are agendas up here on the front table. There are 2 sheets to them. So do please make sure you pick up both. And we do have 2 opportunities for citizens to speak during this evening's meeting, during the public hearing, which we're about to open, and during a citizen's comment. If you are interested in speaking during either of those times, we ask you to, if you're able to come and sign up in one of the 2 columns. If you are online and wish to participate, please indicate through the chat function if you are able. Item 2, public hearing, Planning and Zoning Commission application 21-47, applicant Town of Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission. Amendment to Article 5A, Section 5, solar photovoltaic PV array system. D, table of permitted uses. Amend to add 7, Lake District, residential roof-mounted zoning permit. Residential roof-mounted zoning permit. Residential ground-mounted site plan. Medium and large scale special permit. The purpose of application 21-47 is to correct an error of omission in regulations that were created relative to the lake. So the public hearing on application 21-47 is open.
pretty self-explanatory. We just left it out. Had 2 building permits upstairs in the Lake District for ground mounted, and he's not installing them until March, but he wants to order his material. So we'll cover.
You don't see anyone signed up to speak during the public hearing, but I do want to make sure anyone who wishes to be heard has that opportunity. And certainly through the Zoom, if anyone wishes to speak in the public hearing, please indicate through the chat feature, or if you're unable to do so, you can unmute and request the floor from the chair. Hearing none.
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mr. Blackmer, seconded by Mr. Rice. Close the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will close the public hearing, a no will keep it open. Mr. Krogel.
Mike Kugel, yes. Dave Pilowski, yes. John Rice, yes. Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mr. Lanky.
John B. Lanky, yes.
Joseph Purdy Brown, yes. The public hearing is closed. Item 3, discuss public hearing and possible action. The commission wishes to take action on the public hearing for application 21-47.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the application 2147 applicant for the amendment of Article 5A, Section 5, solar PV over the array system and a table of contents.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Krogel to accept application 21-47, amendment to Article 5A, Section 5, solar PV array system. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes vote will approve the application 2147. A no vote will deny the application. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Dave Pilowski, yes. Mike Kugel, yes.
Mr. Lanky.
John B. Lanky, yes.
Joseph Purdy Brown, yes. Application 21-47 is approved. Item 4, approved minutes, December 27th, 2021, regular meeting minutes.
Name correction. It's Gavin Paquette, I believe, instead of,
Kevin, yes.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
there was another one. too.
Yeah, the page.
Yeah, that's on page 5. On page 5.
I'll start with that one.
Here's the other one.
Try to find it. But Gloria, on page 4, is Sean Brissett, below Davis Road instead of Tom.
That was the other one.
Sean is Hawn, I'm sorry.
SHAWN.
Yeah.
And then on page 5, Gavin, Gavin, instead of Kevin Paquette. Gavin.
Where's that? Mr.
That's on page 5, Mr. Rice,
Okay.
about halfway down.
Tell her the fourth sentence. Now, page 6. The Brandy Hill Road, East Thompson. Paragraph 6. And at the bottom of the page, again, it's Sean Brissett. Yes. And then I believe on page 11, the second paragraph, where Amy Saino's commented that she did da. And I think it's CTPA 490, Connecticut, PA 490, Connecticut 140.
It's CT 490, not 140.
Okay,
PA.
PA
PA
490.
thank you.
Yeah,
CPA.
Hmm?
CPA, right?
PC, PA, right,
Yeah,
Connecticut Public Act.
Connecticut Public Act.
Public Act
490.
490. So I have, Mr. Chairman, this 19 pages of report. Gloria did an outstanding job.
Just back on page 6 for one moment. Just a typo in the third paragraph. Wow. My grandfather would
I had it.
hunt
Oh,
me
I-
down.
I wasn't gonna be that picky.
Just a typo in my last name. Just a miss A. So in the third paragraph down on page 6, just a dropped A in Parodi.
You upset with that?
Yeah, I just don't want him haunting me. But I would echo Mr. Rice's comments that these were
Mr.
very well
Chair.
done. Mr. Lenke,
Yes, page 14. Call it, third paragraph. It has the word town clerk motion, town clerk to fill the alternate. It has the word till, a typographical error. The word is till, it's in there is till, it should be fill.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Lenke. This is on page 14, Gloria. It's the last chunk of bold in the top half. Again, it's just another typo. Fill for till. It says,
Second sentence that was John Linky, was also John Linky. Or the third paragraph, Gloria. Yeah, on page 14.
so it should be in the second line, instead of till, the town clerk should till, it should be fill. Thank you, Mr. Lenke. And thank you, Gloria. I echo Mr. Rice's comments that these minutes, 19 pages of minutes for a lengthy meeting were very well done. I appreciate your work. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Mr. Rice moves to approve the minutes of the December 27th, 2021 regular meeting as amended. Mr. Blackmer seconds. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes approved, a no denied. Mr. Corvo.
Mike Ogle, yes. David Buskey, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mr. Lenke.
John B. Linky, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. Item 5, applications. Planning and Zoning Commission application 22-02. Applicant Danielle J. Robbins, property owner 0 Thompson Road, map 87, block 37, lot 2C, zone RRAD, re-subdivision.
Go with the public hearing.
Move to put it on next month's agenda.
Make a motion that application 22-02 be set for public hearing on 2/28/2022.
Mr. Rice has moved to hold a public hearing on application 22-02 at our next regular meeting on February 28th, 2022. Mr. Williams seconds the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes sets the public hearing and a no does not. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Ms. Olson.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
John Rice, yes.
David Buskey, yes. Mike Ogle, yes.
Mr. Linke.
John B. Linky, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown.
He's still coming in. Fine.
Well, he's not going to vote anyway, but and we've got Alvin Hill joining the meeting at 7:15. Good evening, Mr. Hill.
Yes, thank you.
Item 6, applications received after agenda posted. There are none. Item 7, citizens' comments. Ms. White?
Last month's meeting, I found it peculiar that Calvin Hill and Dave Poplawski were seated for vacancy. My understanding is that alternates are seated for absent. And I reread the minutes today, and it said that Alvin was seated for resigned member Christine Chattel. So it is improper to seat an alternate for somebody that has resigned. And then with Chris Nelson, that Dave was seated for Christopher Nelson, he was listed in the minutes as being absent. But Chris Nelson is ineligible to be a commission member. He's not a resident of the town, and believe that we have knowledge that he voted in Putnam in November is relevant, but that was improper use of 2 alternates. So I didn't look to see if they participated in any votes or whether their votes would actually have any group standing that they shouldn't. So I hope that we won't see alternates being seated in vacant seats anymore. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which I also noticed in the minutes, and that another detail, if I had been able to speak up when we were going over the minutes, the first selectman was noted as being staff, or she isn't staff. Amy St. Ange is an ex officio member of the commission, so she should be described as being a staff member. Then the other thing, which I've spoken to before, and I think some other people have, is the other unusual seating. Here, this isn't personal, this has to do with your position. And I'm unsure of what the reason is. I don't recall there being precedent from other planning and zoning meetings in past administration, whatever you may call it. So I don't know if it's for coaching or what it's for, but it's inappropriate. If there is a need for someone to sit by you to help with anything, then it should be an elected member of the commission who has taken an oath and is a full commission member. And I thought, just as comparison in town, looking at the Board of Finance, and of course they have a chairman, they have a director of finance. The director of finance does not sit at the table with the other board members on the Board of Finance. The director of finance usually sits across from or kitty corner and is there to answer questions. The director of finance does not assist the chairman of the Board of Finance in any way whatsoever. The chairman leads the meeting and so forth. So I would hope that this would cease. It's entirely inappropriate. There has been a number of unruly things that have happened in the past 2 months. And at some point, the people in town, the taxpayers, are going to lose patience because it isn't right. We all observe it, and it will have to end at some point. And I hope that you will take measures to do that. And I would assume that you're very concerned with proper procedure being chairman, and I would hope that you would no longer seat people inappropriately to fill vacant seats. Vacant seats are vacant until the Board of Selectmen fill them. So I hope that you would take it to heart. Thank you.
Mr. Warner?
Here we go.
Oh, your bylaws state a simple majority of 10 regular members of the commission shall constitute a quorum. This number does not include alternates seated for regular members. The bylaws also state zoning regulations and zoning boundaries may be adopted or amended only by a simple majority of the votes of all 10 regular commissioners, not just those present. For these applications, 6 affirmative votes are required for an application to pass. This number also does not include alternates seated for regular members. In the past 18 months, you have violated your own bylaws and state laws numerous times. During the P and Z meeting of August 24th, 2020, you voted to approve new regulations, 8th edition, with the vote of only 4 regular members in violation of your own bylaws. During the P and Z meeting of May 24th, 2021, you voted to approve new regulations, the 9th edition, with the vote of only 5 regular members and without a quorum, violation of your bylaws. During the P and Z meeting of August 23rd, 2021, you voted to approve new regulations, the 10th edition, with your vote of only 4 regular members and without a quorum in violation of your own bylaws. During the P and Z meeting of September 27th, 2021, you voted to approve new regulations, 10th edition amended, with the vote of only 4 regular members and without a quorum, violation of your own bylaws. During the P and Z meeting of December 27th, 2021, you replaced a vacated Republican seat with a Democrat alternate that finished in next to last place in November's election, ignoring the will of the voters and in violation of Connecticut Law 9-167. During the same meeting, you also violated Connecticut Law 7-107, which says after 30 days, the power to seat a replacement goes to the Board of Selectmen. You did not get permission from the Board of Selectmen. You chose to ignore that law as well. There are many more examples of violations, but I don't have all night to read them all. You have the power to enforce your regulations on us, but we expect you to follow the rules as well. Right now, the town is not happy with your lawlessness, and we want to see some change.
Mr. Warner?
Valerie's next.
Yeah, Ms. Clark?
Oh, give me a second, sorry. Hi, Valerie Clark, 105 Alm Road in Thompson, and I just want to say, I looked ahead on the agenda, and I want to say 2 things. One is to publicly thank the town planner and the town clerk for their assistance, particularly the town planner with bringing forward the details surrounding the open space BA 490 application process, and also to the town clerk for her assistance with some of the research that has been happening around that public act. And then hopefully this will come before you at some meeting soon regarding the open space proposition. And I would like to encourage you to vote in favor of restoring the ability of the citizens to use the open space forum in town and to act to, we'll say, right what was an unattended wrong with the open space forums. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Anyone else for citizens' comment?
Curious. Is the applicant considered a city member?
Yes.
He's not.
He is not.
He's a regular member.
He was voted in as a regular member of this commission. Thank you, Ms. White. Item 8, reports of officers and staff, planners, 8A, planners report, 8AI, or 1 rather, online codification project. And we do have Deb Kaczynski, guest presenter, with us this evening online. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Deb.
You did. Very good.
Hi, Deb, thanks for coming in.
Sure. No problem. Thanks for having me.
So can you just provide some better context than I was able for the commissioners and also obviously for the public as to what the project is? I've indicated to them that in order to move forward with the portion for the planning and zoning regulations, you know, they need to affirmatively approve that since they own that document. And they may have some questions for you as well.
Sure. I can share my screen and show some documents, but I don't know if people would be able to see that. Is that something you'd like me to do? Would you just like me to kind of talk through it?
You should be all, yep, you're all set to share screen, Deb. Everybody should be able to see it.
Okay. Just bear with me a second. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm looking at a document. The title says Town of Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission Zoning Regulations. Are you seeing this?
You got it.
Okay. Is it large enough? I can bump it up.
That's fine, I think.
We've got it on a big screen in the meeting room.
Okay. All right. So just let me just step back for a second. So again, my name is Deb Kaczynski. I'm a project editor with General Code. The town has entered into a contract with General Code to prepare a town code for Thompson, a codification project. The scope of the project right now includes the town ordinances and the zoning regulations. That's part of the agreement. In order to put that together, I initially submitted some information to the town about the proposed organization of this code. I should also say I've been with General Code for 30 years. So I've worked on many codification projects, many codes, including many in Connecticut. So I have a lot of familiarity with this type of project and with zoning regulations and municipal zoning law. So one of the things we do when we prepare a code is basically every piece of legislation that goes into a code becomes a chapter of that code. And just to give you a little bit more of a visual, looking at a finished code, this is the code of the town of Lyme, which we've completed their codification project in 2019. This is just their online version of the code. So I just wanted to kind of give you a visual. So each chapter that you see here is an ordinance of the town of Lyme. So I wanted to use this example because the way we're proposing to do Thompson's code is very similar to Lyme's. So the first portion of the code is the town ordinances. These are obviously under the jurisdiction of the town meeting. That's the first 2 sections of the code. And then we come down to rules and regulations. Now, Lyme, for their project, chose to include their inland wetlands regulations, their subdivision regulations, and their zoning regulations. So you can see in their code, their zoning regulations were designated as Chapter 315. For your code, we've got them designated as Chapter 275. So again, everything becomes a chapter in the code. And then that then drives the numbering within the document. It has the article organization. Each section has the chapter number, the article number, and then the number within that article. So the first section in Article 1 is 1.1, the first section in Article 2 is 2.1, and so forth. The idea here is just to establish consistent numbering across the code. This allows everything to have similar references. It also allows the code to be indexed. In terms of the overall organization, I am suggesting a couple of minor revisions to what you have now, again, just based on my experience working with zoning regulations. The way I'm just going to kind of go through this, the overall sequence of the sections. And what you can see here, the new numbering is on the left, and the numbers in parentheses on the right are the current numbers where this appears in your current bylaw compilation, excuse me, your regulations compilation. So right off the top, it's the exact same first 4 sections that you have right now for general provisions. Then we have Article 2, which is construction. Really the main revision that I'm suggesting is pulling the definitions up from the end of the document and including them here with the other provisions that relate to the construction of the language, interpretation, and severability. So it puts them here. It also, I know sometimes you think of definitions as being like a glossary at the end, but in a
Oh, Deb, you
well,
just
to add
clipped out.
things. I'm sorry.
You just clipped out a little bit. If you just repeat the last sentence that you said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so just explaining that we generally recommend that you not put definitions at the end of the document because you want to have that end of the document open so that you can add new material at the end. And I'll kind of show that a little bit more when I get down to that point. After this, the organization is basically the same as you have now. We go through administration. You can see this is current Article 2. And then permits and site plan procedures, Article 3, 3A, 3B, and 3C, the way you have it now. Special permits. Then we have the establishment of the zoning districts. And then each zoning district has its own article. Then we get through the districts and we get into your use regulations and your design regulations. And this way, as I was explaining, by not having the definitions at the end, if you need to add a new article, you can do that very easily. You don't have to worry about renumbering the definitions. And the way the sections are numbered, this allows you to, by tying them to the articles, you can add new sections at the end of any article without having to worry about it affecting what comes after. So if you have to add a new section on, say, keeping chickens on a residential premises, or tiny houses, or marijuana establishments, or whatever new thing comes up that you have to address, you can very easily add new sections at the end of each article. So again, except for moving the definitions, the overall organization is basically the same. The section numbers change because, again, this is becoming a chapter in the overall code. We're standardizing the numbering. I want to really emphasize that all we're talking about changing is the organization and the numbering. In terms of the text, when we go through this process and make it part of a chapter in the code, we will fix obvious typographical errors, say a period's missing at the end of a sentence, or misspelled words. Beyond that, we would not make any changes to the text without authorization from the commission. In terms of outputs, when the code is completed and submitted, we provide both hard copies and the online version. Now, to give you a better visual of what the print output looks like, what the online code would look like, this is, again, the Town of Lyme zoning regulations. This is what the formatting looks like, chapter 315. You can see the article numbers, the section numbers, everything starts with the chapter number. So yours would look very similar to this. Again, this is the hard copy output. As we get into the text of the chapter itself, this is what it looks like. There's corners at the top of each page showing the first and last section that appears on that page. You always know exactly where you are in the document. This is what definitions look like. The page numbers are tied to the chapter number as well. So this is the hard copy output. And then we also would be providing an e-code, online code, just like Lyme's. It would look just like this. Here, when you click on the chapter, you have attachment schedules or Word documents that are linked out. And then you have basically the same kind of initial table of contents. The really nice thing about this is once you find the section you're looking for, you can click on it and jump right to it. From here, you can select this section or any piece of the code. You can print it. You can download it as either a PDF or a Word document. You can quickly share a link. People can navigate through going through that table of contents from the top. A lot of people will use the search. And what's really nice about this is, again, what's in this platform, what's in this code is the zoning regulations and also the town ordinances and the other regulations. So when you're looking for something and you're searching for something, you search everything. You search all the documents at once. So let's say I'm considering buying a house in a historic district in Lyme. And so I want to know where in the town regulations and codes does it talk about what goes on in the historic district. So if I search on that here, it's going to show that there are 8 hits throughout the code. One of them is a town ordinance establishing the historic district. One of them is in the numbering of buildings ordinance, references the historic district. And then we have references to the historic. There's a definition of historic structure in the floodplain district portion of the zoning regulations. So this tells me everything at once, anything in that code, ordinances, regulations that references the historic district, I can find that with one search of the entire platform. If I want to build a fence and I want to see, it would help if I could type, sorry about that. I want to see where in the code does it mention fences. We've got a total of 22 references, zoning regulations. So this is a way of, just to kind of the basic purpose of all this is access. It's to give members of the public, town staff, a way to see everything in one volume if you're looking at the hard copy code, or we've really seen over the last several years a move into more of the online environment of people using and accessing the code and the regulations in the online platform. So I'm sorry, I've been talking a lot and I threw a lot of information at you. I just want to pause here and have the opportunity to ask me any questions that you have.
Mr. Poplawski?
So Deb, when you put that in, did it go to the, put in fence again or something? Did it go back to the definitions? Because when you did your 2 examples, I didn't see it pull up definitions.
Well, this basic search will go to every instance of the word fence in the code.
Yeah.
Now, what I can do, there's an advanced search. So I can look for search and I can narrow it to only references in the code, that are definitions. So we can do the search that way. So this is where, and it's not showing necessarily a definition of fence, but it's showing anything that's formatted as a definition where the word fence pops up. So I'm not seeing a specific definition of fence in this particular code.
Though. Okay.
But you just, it's searching in the definitions for the word fence. Unfortunately,
yep.
Doesn't happen to have a definition of fence itself in this code, but that's a very simple way of, if you had that question, do we have a definition of fence in our code? You could do this search, search for fence, narrow it to definitions, and that will tell you very quickly whether you do.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, this be on the town's web page or whatever, so that anyone wants to look it up, they can do it from home. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I had a little trouble hearing that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, the question was if this would be on the town website.
Yes. Yes, this is linked from the town website. And I also want to emphasize, we can provide both hard copies and online. Because some people are just more comfortable one or the other. And personally, even myself, I'm a little older, so sometimes I just really prefer to just give me some paper so I can look at it on paper. So, we do provide hard copies of the code, the whole code. We also can provide hard copies of just the zoning regulations. We can run print copies of that particular chapter. And also updates for that. So if you wanted to provide a set of those, I don't know if you sell copies of the zoning regulations for members of the public to use, or if you just want them for the commission members to use, you can certainly do that. Like I said, we've seen this trend over the last several years, especially towards sort of away from hard copies and more towards using it online. But we absolutely do still provide hard copies of things if people would rather look at it that way.
Thank you. Mr. Poplawski?
So, Deb, is there the ability to provide links within the document so someone could go in and download links, like print out an application form? Is that something that can be done, or is that something that Lyme does?
Oops. It's not something that Lyme does, but it's going to be something that you are able to do. So actually, I just want to do one thing here. Oh, it's covering up my ability to do that.
Get renewed, good stuff, right?
So your code will have a feature called the public documents module. So let me just, I recently published the code for Ashland. So so this is just so I'm explaining what I'm doing as I'm going through here. This is also a feature you have. Once your code is up and running, you'll have access to our entire codification library of what's online. This is really handy for research. If you want to say, what are other places in Connecticut doing? If you're trying to develop some new regulations for something, you can do a search of the other codes that are on this platform. I'm going to narrow this down by town so I can get to Ashford, and I believe they have premium. Yes, so you're going to have the same type of platform that Ashford does, and they have this additional module over here called public documents, called Misc Documents. And basically you can post things here. You can post applications. They have their open space pan posted here right now. We see places put in things like maps, fee schedules, things that you don't necessarily want to have in the code itself, but that are related to the code. So yes, you could absolutely have applications. We have some clerks who use this module to post their minutes and agendas. So this is whatever you want it to be in terms of posting additional documents. And then this is just another example of another code. Like I said, Ashford just finished their project last year. You can see this is up to date through 2021, July 2021.
So is, the person who wants to pull a building permit or, fill out that application, is there a way that's convenient for them to go to this and get that document and print it out if they so choose to bring to the town hall?
If you choose to post that particular application here, yes, you can post whatever you would like to the Misc Documents module.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Mr. Hill?
Yes, Deb, what about amendments? How quickly are they provided with this particular platform?
Well, what we do is, as soon as we get an amendment, it gets posted and it gets put here under new laws. Unfortunately, Ashford doesn't have any right now. That would have been nice if I could have given you that example. But as soon as we get them in, they're posted here. They're not integrated into the code until we do an actual supplement to actually incorporate them into, where the section that was amended. The frequency of supplementation is entirely up to you. We have some communities that basically say, here's an amendment, put it in right away. Most of our clients, especially those that operate under a town meeting form of government, will go on a more set schedule, like quarterly or twice a year, like usually, immediately following whatever their town meeting is. So they'll do a supplement, say in June, if they have an annual meeting in May, to get them in right after that. And and we can do it one at any time that you like. I think our turnaround, I'm actually not sure what our turnaround is right now. It's usually a matter of weeks from the time we get it in until it's actually, I should say from the time the town authorizes the supplement to when it's posted. And what happens is the amendment is incorporated and the online code gets re-uploaded. So it has the current material, and then you get replacement pages for any hard copies that you have.
Thank you.
In the meantime, any new laws are posted here under new laws, which means they're searchable. So that if you did a search, when you search everything that's in this platform, if it's in the code itself, if it's in new laws, if it's under Misc Documents, everything, all of that is part of the search.
Again, thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Ms. Dzinski?
Yeah, so basically what I'm looking for in terms of moving forward, our next step is going to be preparing a rough draft of the manuscript for the new code. All we really need at this point is authorization, basically approval of the organization that I've set out here and the numbering. And again, not changing the text. This is just about the organization and the numbering to make zoning a chapter in this new town code that we're setting up.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dzinski. I open it to the commission if there's any potential action the commission wants to take at this time.
Is it Is this something that fits in the budget? Is this outside of our budget and part
So
of
is
the
this
town?
something that has been contracted through the town clerk's office? I believe?
Not gonna be in our budget, it'll be on Renee's. Already applied for that.
It's partly grant funded and it's partly funded
Yeah.
through the town clerk's budget. So really, the role that the commission has is to approve,
Authorize
including
moving forward
the
with
zoning
codification.
regulations or not, if you choose to go the other way.
Do we know the final cost of this?
Renee, are you still on there?
Yes,
We have a question as to what the actual cost of the contract is, inclusive
it's,
of grant.
not, I believe, I know it's, 9,000, let me just, it's under 10. I believe it's like 9,900. And half of that cost is coming from the state of Connecticut through my historic preservation grant. The other half, Amy has already gotten approval through the Board of Finance to cover the cost. The other half of that. So half is through the grant and half is through the budget that's been already approved by the Board of Finance.
Thank you.
Cost for this?
Renee, are there maintenance costs, annual maintenance costs, anything like that?
Yep, there is an annual fee because they do all the amendments and they keep it current. So there is an annual fee. I do not have that at my fingertips. If Amy's on, she may know what that is, or if Deb has the contract in front of her.
Sure, I can look that up for you.
Mr.
Actually,
Chair,
Deb, I have a question. Oh, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Mr. Lang,
my question would be to Deb as well, but my feeling is if we're gonna do this way, we cannot use the word laws or anything in our regular, it has to be word regulations, like new laws, that would have to be, say, new regulations, because we're a commission and we do everything with regulations. We don't use law. That's my summation.
Yes, I understand that. I guess I'd have to look into that because the idea of this sort of new laws heading is it's for everything in the platform. So we use laws because you have both ordinances and regulations. Because if we get a new ordinance adopted by the town meeting, that's going to get posted here. So we use laws as more of a general term because you have more than one type of legislation in your code. I'm not sure, we could potentially set up a separate heading that says new regulations. I'll have to check on that.
I
I
just
want
have
those
one
to be
question,
posted
Deb.
separately from amendments to the ordinances.
I
I'm
have
sorry.
one question, Deb, and I can't remember if I asked this of you before, but I don't think that I did. Let's assume for the sake of argument that the town completes this project, goes forward, does a couple years with you, and then for some reason does not re-up on the maintenance contract. Does some form of this come back that is editable by us of this online code?
I'm sorry, I'm just going back to the maintenance fee. The E-code maintenance fee is $1,195. That starts a year after the code is posted. So the first year of the E-code posting is covered by the initial contract, and after that, there's a maintenance fee. And this is the E-code maintenance fee. The actual cost of supplementation, that is charged on time and materials as the supplements are done, and varies depending on how large the supplement is. If there's a few page amendment to a chapter, it's not going to be very much. If there's a brand new 50-page stormwater ordinance or stormwater regulation, obviously it would be more. So just before I leave this, were there any further questions about the pricing? The initial contract pricing, and the initial contract price is $99.95.
thank you.
Okay. So once the town is under no obligation to continue with general code. We have the contract right now for the initial preparation of the code. If you decide, as you said, after a couple of years that you're no longer interested in, the maintenance and you would not be able to use this site. This is linked to general code's e-code platform. You would certainly have the code itself, the physical copy. If you wanted to say, scan it and start maintaining it in-house, you could certainly do that. Or
But
set
we
up
would
your,
not be able to maintain the online portion, this interactive portion in-house.
no, this platform, no, this is general code's platform.
Right, okay, just clarifying. Thank
Yep,
you, Deb.
sure. This is linked off of our servers.
Mr. Williams?
I have two things. So if we change 3 regulations and we want them to put it on there, we have to pay a fee for that every time we have them update.
Yeah, so that would go along with the supplement, the supplement
yeah.
timeline, yeah.
The other thing is just a comment, being a new commissioner and, haven't learned all the other regulations and stuff, this would definitely be a lot easier for us, but, the guys that have been on here, it might be a little bit, the learning curve there, but that seems very user-friendly, very user.
Person for the public as well.
I would like to say I thank her very much because exactly what Ray just said. She made it very understandable and user-friendly, which I feel that the individuals out in the community would be able to go on here and use it without really too much of a problem. And I thank her for her work on this.
Thank you.
You let Deb go?
I think so, yeah. Thanks
Okay.
very much, Ms. Kaczynski.
I'll
me-
follow up with Deb
let me stop.
based on what the commission decides in the end.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience as I went through all of that. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out for me. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
So would the commission like to take any action tonight on the codification project?
How many other commissions or whatever are gonna be on this whole platform?
So right now it would be,
Inland wetlands and
I don't believe inland wetlands is part of the contract.
Just the code of ordinances and the zoning regulations is covered by the current contract, but we have the ability to expand that contract, to add them later, obviously at additional cost if, it proves as beneficial as this and we want to go in that direction. It's an option that we can add on.
Subdivision regulations, for example, inland wetlands.
Renee, I see your hand raised there.
Yeah, I was just, I know you're trying to decide if you're taking action, but if we're gonna move forward to include P&Z, we have a timeline and this, because of the holidays and some very busy meetings, this has been put off and we really need some action on whether you would like to include planning and zoning in this. And I agree with the positive comments that every day we're looking up ordinances and what we have, frankly, and nothing against who's been working on it. They've worked with what they've had within our system, but it's atrocious. So I think this is going to be fantastic for the public as well as all of the commissioners and staff. So I hope you approve this so we can move forward and indeed include planning and zoning regulations in this. Thank you.
Chairman, I have one more question. On the contract, is it a year-to-year contract, month-to-month? What kind of contract length is it? Is it something that if we get into this and find that, there's something we might be able to do in-house, then are we able to get out of the contract without too much of a problem?
My understanding is the contract that we've already entered gives us a year,
Okay,
and then I believe it's annual
it's an annual,
after that. But Renee?
Yeah, so this is a 2-year project. So this is going to take 2 years. So it is a 2-year contract to get this initial work done. And beyond that, that's where we're at. So like we heard Deb mention that, again, I think once we begin to use this, I would feel that we are probably not going to want to look back and go back to what we're working with now. But that option is there.
Mr. Blackburn and then Mr. Williams.
That 10,000 is for the 2 years or 10,000 a year? For the,
That's the 2 years. So 40, whatever half of 99 is, 4450 or whatever is coming out of, again, the state historical preservation grant. And the second half is going to come out of the finance, through the Board of Finance.
That's the build out. That's why it's only a maintenance after that. The
Yep.
first 2 years is the build out. That's why it's the high cost, and then it
I
goes.
just wanted to know whether it was 9,000 a year or 9,995 a year, or that covered first 2 years.
Good question.
Same question. I want to know if it was $10,000 every year after that. Where that money would come from.
It's like $1,100 after the
Right,
first
yes.
2 years.
Indeed, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we move forward on this codification project and to include the ordinances and the planning and zoning.
Second.
Motion has been made to include the zoning regulations in the codification project of the town, made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Ms. Salcy. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes vote authorizes moving forward with the project, a no vote rejects that. Mr. Krogel.
Mike Kugel, yes. Dave Bukowski, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mr. Linky,
John B. Linky, yes.
Mr. Hill.
You're on mute, Alvin. I can unmute him. Well, it's already passed, but it'd be nice to have his vote on there. Alvin, can you unmute yourself for the vote? Are you still there?
Unmute it now.
Mm-mm.
Joseph Rudy Brown, yes.
Get him later.
The project is approved. Item 8A2, subdivision regulations, discussion of schedule moving forward.
Okay, so as we had agreed at the end of October, the subdivision regulations draft with proposed changes has been in a, I'm calling it a locked status on the website so that people can comment on it exactly as it was proposed at that time. I have had no comments returned. The Wetlands Commission does want to submit some comments, and I did get some comments back today from Marla. And to clarify, just because the locked period has expired does not mean we're not taking any comments. It just means we're going to move ahead with continuing to work on the draft. The benchmark I would like us to hit is the end of the fiscal year, which, initially we'd wanted to hit the end of the calendar year, but it just was too much. So Cindy and I mapped out what that timeline would need to look at today. I don't know that you necessarily need to vote on this, although if you think it's appropriate, certainly that's fine. So at the end of the month, next Monday, the document, quote unquote, unlocks. So I'll take whatever edits I got from Marla, and if I get anything from anybody in the meantime, I'll start incorporating them either into the working draft itself, if that seems appropriate, or if it seems like items for more discussion as sidebar comments in the working draft. And then I am proposing that we go back to our schedule of weekly special meetings to go over that content to further refine that draft. for the period of the months of February and March and the first 2 weeks of April.
Yeah.
Of April. Right. Which gives us also a couple of sort of patter weeks in which we could conduct an informal public information meeting, much like we did with the zoning regulations. I think that was very helpful. Obviously, I'll be receiving and responding to and/or incorporating comments all along anyway. But that did seem to go over well with the folks who attended. That would put us in a position to present an application to accept the revised document for public hearing by the 25th of April, with that public hearing scheduled at the regular May meeting, which is the 23rd. And assuming that whatever final form of that draft is approved, that means all the appeals periods, whatever, would be cleared and we would hit the end of the fiscal year. I think that is doable, but it's somebody's trying to. I think that is doable, certainly, but obviously it's a lot of work and there's going to be at least two projects on that sort of in related topics going on at the same time, this, and we'll get to PA 490 in a second, because the target for both of those is the end of the fiscal year. So that is what I have, and I'd like to hear your comments.
Mr. Ray?
Why is that? I know it's always best to set goals, but how flexible, I'm not sure. Reading, I don't know how many people had a chance to read Marla Butt's memo that she sent out. I don't know what day, well, today. Monday, the 24th, and the 24th, and I kind of agree with her as far as I don't mind. I think seeing how you haven't received any comments from the public that's being posted, I would be in favor of closing that for the time being. And I would like to address or give Marla some time, because I like the way that she's formatting it, being the old guy here, and the way she does things, rather than what the subcommittee's been doing with these sidebars and everything else. It's just that I think it'll be easier for the public.
Did you see that where she
I think she'll be
said
able
that she had somebody?
He was talking to somebody in the room and not to us. Go ahead, John.
Lost my train of thought when I see this one, but I would agree that, to, as I mentioned, close the public comment period for January, but I'm not in favor of sending that out, because I think that what Marla has been doing as far as lining it up, I think that'll be easier for the public to see what we're amending. She's lining out and highlighting what's being amended and what's being suggested. So I think I'd like to do that. And then, like I say, I would shoot for that goal, but it wouldn't be hard fast with. And my thing is saying by the end of this fiscal year, if we don't do it, we don't do it.
Well,
what's the reason?
That's how it always works out, John,
Yeah, I
right? I mean,
know.
we've set a couple of goals, right? And we've missed them for legitimate reasons. So the setting the goal is to create the sense of order, right? And if we miss it, we miss it. There's no penalty,
Yeah.
but we know that we have people on the back end who have been waiting. So we know that this emergency, and in that regard.
I don't think so. I don't, people have been waiting for what, subdivisions? We've had these subdivisions in order. Right now, is that how much of a drastic changes they're gonna be for subcontractors to do a subdivision? Until I see it, I'm not sure. I don't.
You had a question?
I'm with Mr. Rice on that. I'd like to see that too. And I'm just wondering, why are we changing subdivisions for these new contractors coming in to put in, and instead of just going with what we've been doing with subdivisions? It just don't seem right that we're changing something to fit somebody's agenda.
Well, it's not changing the regulations to fit any one or group of contractors' agendas. the subdivision regulations need to be aligned with the zoning regulations. There were changes that had direct relationships. Beyond that, much like the zoning regulations themselves, they're just kind of clunky and out of date and not particularly well written. So the whole project in general just improves what we have. But the specific changes are what you guys, I mean, the subcommittee that worked on it for whatever, a year, 13 months, 14 months, has made a set of proposed changes. None of that is set in stone until the minute this commission votes to adopt the final changes. So what the draft that's there now is, you know, what the 5 or 6 members of this commission went over, improved language, improved flow, proposed things to align to the zoning regulations and to make general changes. I'll give you an example that doesn't necessarily have to do with the zoning regulations. In conservation subdivisions, we've never had a conservation subdivision application, despite the fact that it's described. I can tell you that part of the reason is probably because there's no benefit to a developer in the current regulations to propose one. And there's no additional burden in terms of open space set-asides. So, you know, that was something that like Mother and I, that was one of the last things she and I worked on together, was trying to come up with ideas to streamline and improve that. So that's not necessarily tied to the original zoning regulations overhaul, but it is an overhaul that would improve the conservation value of a conservation subdivision, right? But all of those proposed changes are subject to debate by this commission. It happens that there was a group of 5 or 6 who did the bulk of the work thus far. It can be those 5 or 6, it can be all 10, 11, 12, 13 of you. I think the more the better. I think we get a better product that way.
Just walking in on it and, you know, you hear these subdivisions, you know, things are being changed. And, you know, just, why don't we keep it the way it's been, is, you know, was what I was thinking. you know.
Sure. So it's a natural question, but that's fundamentally the answer is for those sets of purposes.
Mr. Rice?
What you're saying, the format that you have right now, is that the only one that I've read, is that where you have the information, you have the sidebar, what you're saying, and, you know, where that information is out there. To me, it's kind of confusing, because you have to keep on going back and forth with everything.
Marla's going to keep working on the one that she's working on and submit that to me. We'll have both. She has told, because she and I emailed a little bit back and forth after that memo came out. What she has said to me is that the draft that she has created creates more of a flow within the old regulations that incorporates the new. When I initially created the working draft from the original regulations, I had to convert from a PDF to a Word doc because we didn't have a source file Word doc for it. And the iteration of that program that I used it was a mess. It was really, really hard to follow, which is why I created that thing that I called the clean draft, right? Showing these are the changes we're proposing. You can look at them side by side and see them. But I can understand why you would like to see it the other way. So she's going to keep working on that, and we'll have that.
Yeah, because I know it's still, I read it all, is that, you know, she's showing what the current regulation is, and it's lined out, and then what the proposed is. And that just makes sense to me to raise question is that, you know, I mean, there definitely has to be changes being made, because I agree with that. I disagree with your thought about the conservation division.
Do you disagree that we've never had one?
No, I agree with that, but I don't know if it's in favor of the developer. But that was taken from a lot of, I think it was the state guidance on how to do that. And that was in.
Yeah, I mean, you guys will read it and you'll make your additional comments, and then the ultimate change is not up to me, it's up to you guys. I just type
I
it.
think it's still a good thing if the developer wants to do it. But But that's my foot. I don't know what you're looking for, Mr. Chairman, is to close the public comment.
Well, I think that has already been, that was a vote of this commission
To close
already,
it
you know, to keep it open until January
rather
31st.
than extending it at this
Yeah.
point. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
Yeah,
piece,
you
John,
haven't got
and then just to sort
I
of
haven't got
approve
any
the
comments
general
yet.
shape of the action moving
But
forward.
I'm
I
not
think that's
sure
it.
if people are not making a comment because they don't understand what we're proposing.
Well, we'll continue to take comments. It's just that it won't be locked, right? We're gonna start to work on it again, that's all.
So can we post Marla's when she gets it? I think that would be beneficial for everyone to see
Yeah,
that.
when she's
The
finished,
comparison.
definitely. I think of what she's done today, you know, so far is outstanding. In
I'm an
my-
admin on the website. I can post whatever you want.
Great, so yeah, so, you know, I think having those regular subcommittee meetings going forward, and continuing to bring in all this different input is important. We'll
We're
move-
looking to have them on a Thursday.
Well, probably, it's because I'm the advisory staff to so many commissions, there's usually one night a week that I can actually squeeze in another meeting. In many cases, that's likely to be Thursdays. There's probably some Mondays, and maybe an occasional Wednesday in there, but we can hammer that out a little bit too.
But on Saturday, most of these people are working 5 days a week. Saturday is open.
I don't know that we actually can legally.
Just-
Not even sure we can legally do a public meeting on Saturday. Can't we only do them during the regular business week? I'm not even sure. I know we can't do them on Sunday.
It's a Zoom.
Can we move on? Or Mr. Lenke, did you have a question?
No, it's gonna be a Zoom meeting. We're not gonna have a meeting sitting in the Merrill Stable. We're gonna do it in Zoom. It'll be easier for us, like we've been doing for the last 14, 15 months.
It
This
does
way-
work best on Zoom when we're editing the documents.
For a subcommittee and everything, it's the best way to go, instead of trying to meet all down here and go, and we can let the public come in and listen and see, and we can go from there. If we need to get some input from anybody in the public, a contractor or something, and we can invite them in, and if they got something they want to ask, well, we can listen. Then that's what the whole subcommittee was all about, is the public had a chance to come in and make their point of view, so we could make what we were going through and everything for those last like I said, 14, 15 months. We weren't trying to beat a dead horse there. We were just trying to get it so the verbiage is correct and everything gets in line and everything. Then once the subcommittee felt it was down to right to what we thought it would be good, totally, then we would have submitted it to the regular committee. Then an application would have to be done in the regular due process before we would really make it a finalized subdivision regulation. We're not trying to beat the system. We're just, well, as I'm concerned, I thought we were on the right path, but yes, we're taking our time. There was a lot to decipher and everything, in my opinion. And I thought we were doing a good thing, but well, we had some people that just didn't think we were doing what we thought. We were trying to beat, run things past them. Well, everybody's invited. Everything's posted. So stick to the Zoom meetings, get everything posted, put it out on the Thompson webpage and everything. And then if they don't want to come in and sit down with us, then you snooze, you lose.
Okay, so we'll move forward with those subcommittee meetings and continue working on the subdivision regulations.
So I'm sorry, one more point, Mr. Chairman, before we move on. So if we are going to start that as of next week, then yes, the date that I would be proposing for a special for the subdivision regulations would be Thursday, the 3rd. So I guess if there is any action that might be required, it might be to see if there's enough people available to make that practical to start at that date.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Lenke?
Yes. Do not use the word special, just call it a subcommittee to work on the sub-regulations, period.
John.
Thank you, Mr. Lenke. Gloria? Right, yeah, it's yeah, a much shorter, much simpler agenda with just the topic of the meeting, yeah. Yeah, thank you. I'm a definite maybe for the 3rd and all Thursdays, but I don't know if others are
Just send
available.
out that doodle
You want me
poll
to
that
send
you
out, I
always
can,
do,
I'll doodle poll
and
it,
you get
that's
an
fine.
idea who's coming.
Great.
Yeah,
So
I'll do that.
look out for the doodle poll about times to meet. Item 8A3, new project, possible adoption of the open space classification of PA 490 for Thompson.
All right, I believe everybody on the commission should have received the memo I wrote up for, well, for a bunch of groups, for Ag, Conservation, Board of Selectmen, PZC, and Donna Hall is the representative to the Ordinance Committee. So after Valerie brought up her point about Public Act 490, I talked to Paul Hopkins, the assessor, figured out, what that sort of thread was leading to. And we addressed it at a meeting of the Agriculture Commission, whatever that date that was. What was that, a Monday? But Mondays, you guys?
30?
Yeah, so it was the last Monday of December. And
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So long story short, it appears that in the past, a prior assessor did recognize locally the open space classification, which is an optional classification within Public Act 490 for an open space, it's essentially a tax reduction, tax assessment reduction. However, research has not led anybody to be able to find that Valerie, I see your comment, and actually Renee and I looked at that earlier. I'll talk to you about that later. We haven't been able to find anything conclusive that says it was properly adopted at that time. So in order to be correct legally in the eyes of the state, whatever, if the town wants to continue to participate in that classification, got to go back and do it right. So again, we've mapped out a timeline for that, and it involves multiple boards that have a role. The first role, sort of the almost first role, actually comes from this commission, because it does require an amendment to the Plan of Conservation and Development, essentially affirming what areas of town would be eligible and criteria or types of parcels that would be eligible. And I found out the process for that. But since the Plan of Conservation and Development is a document owned by the Planning and Zoning Commission, before any of the other subsequent steps can happen, that piece has to happen. So Wednesday night, Agriculture and Conservation have a joint meeting to get together to discuss the appropriate areas of town and criteria that they would then propose to this commission to adopt an amendment to the Plan of Conservation and Development, which would then kick it to the next step. So the goal for that is to have that ready for you guys for the February regular meeting. Doesn't require a public hearing. It's simple vote to amend. And then it would go to the next step, which involves the Board of Selectmen, and then eventually it would involve the Ordinance Committee and yada, yada, yada. And because it's an ordinance that is required, it would have to be voted on at town meeting. So there's your set of urgency. If the town wants to do it and wants it to be accessible to people in this calendar year, because the enrollment period is September and October, we have to have it essentially wrapped by the town meeting. And again, I've said the end of the fiscal year because nice halfway mark, but because ordinances are generally voted at town meeting, that's the real goal. So an accelerated time frame, a lot of writing, but a simpler project than the subdivision regulations. You know, one section of amendment, one ordinance to be written, and therefore. So that is what that is. If anybody is able to attend on Wednesday night, that the agenda is posted. It is a hybrid, so it'll be online and here. And we're gonna get off and go. Randy, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, it's really, this Wednesday night meeting is really just an informational meeting so that everyone gets on the same page on
Yeah.
what needs to happen, what lands is can be done to. There's for instance, you have your land put in under this, what it does is it reduces the tax on that land. There's a 10-year recapture, so you've got some land and you're thinking about gonna save some tax money for a couple of years, don't do it, because the recapture will really get you if you try and do it until you get to close to the end of the 10th year, but close to the 10th year.
Mr. Rice?
But to your point though, if you use that land prior to the 10-year expiration, all they do is you pay the taxes for the previous 5 years or 6 years that you had that.
Actually, I don't think that's right. I think that there is an actual penalty that is worse than the.
10% recapture of
The
taxes
taxes
you would
that
have
would
paid
have been
for the whole
prior
time.
to. But my comment on this, Mr. Chairman, is that if that meeting is not gonna be till Wednesday, why do you want us to?
We're not
approve it
doing
tonight?
anything tonight. That was just information.
Next Wednesday, there's supposed to be a meeting of the memo I got.
Yeah, we're
day
not
after
looking for any action.
This is just under my report. I'm
And this-
reporting.
Yeah, this is just an
Well, it says
information,
possible adoption.
not tonight.
Not, possible
The
adoption.
project is for the possible adoption of PA 490, but you guys don't actually have to adopt PA 490. All you guys would have to do would be
So you're not
amend your
gonna-
POCD.
I'm not gonna vote on it until these these other
Yeah.
committees
Right.
Of course.
decide what open space in the town, you're gonna have some kind of a map where this open space will be developed.
Right.
Oh,
My question, suppose I should say this for Wednesday night, but I'm not sure where there's a parcel of land that somebody would have that they'd want to tie up, because this doesn't include farmland. If you have farmland, you're in a different Public Act 490 parcel. If it's forest land, you can get a tax reduction if it's forest land and you've got 25 acres, but it has to be under forestry plan. This open space one is a little different, but if you want to know more, come Wednesday night or listen in.
I don't do that.
Mr. Williams?
I just got a comment about it. I think if anybody has property that fits the criteria, no matter what part of town it is, kind of discriminating on people if they can't. Because we put a map on it saying, well, you can't have it over here. You can have it over here. I don't think that's good. So if you have a piece of property, you want to put it in there for the 10 years, that's discriminating on other people, but being able to use their land the way they want to. Just my opinion on it.
Well, I mean, dial in and as that conversation goes on, I mean, that's exactly why we have those meetings, right? But for tonight, it was just a piece of information, right? This is where we're going. So there, John.
Thank you. Item 8B, ZEO memo.
Just that I gave you that report or letter from the, telecommunications. And, we can discuss them, but I don't think having Marla's comment, we can discuss that under, there was optional training on the agenda, so. Nope, I don't think I have it. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Item 8C, Town of Thompson Budget Report, December 2021.
We've expended, as you've seen your report, 48.6%. Everything looks in order, that's all. The other thing I'd like to have the commission authorize me within the past to sit down and do the budgets for this next coming year. With the select.
Motion made by Mr. Blackmer to authorize Mr. Rice.
I'll
to-
second that.
Seconded by Mr. Poplawski to fit it on the budget process for this commission. Any discussion on the motion?
The only discussion I would have, if you have any suggestions of increase or decrease, send me an email. But when I looked it over, the only, I think it'll probably pretty much stay the same, other than the requirement for the newbies here to attend classes, whether there'll be a charge. I don't know if there's gonna be a charge on those seminars or not. The transportation, we probably would not pay, in that the town has a vehicle that you can use if you're gonna go to these seminars. That it is a requirement, I think till next year, that you have to attend so many hours of class. I think that you've been getting.
Yeah, the
But-
classes depend on who's offering them. If it's CCM, the town's a member of CCM, and generally members attend those for free, but there are some, like the Casio stuff, those often have charges.
Depends where we have to go. If that's down in New Britain, the other side, maybe NECOG will be doing programs.
I wonder if any of them are doing Zoom.
A lot of them probably are. CCM has been entirely Zoom
Okay.
since the pandemic, and I
But that's the
don't see
only
them
area.
changing that.
I think that's the only area for professionals.
Yeah, getting to that, that's why. I put it
For
on.
meetings and fees, so it's currently $250. Might ask to get that increase just in case. We don't spend it, it goes back to the
Yeah,
town
we haven't
coffers.
actually done it the last 2 years.
No.
We've been having them.
No-
So that's why I put the land use training guidelines, and I put that in my demo, so that you guys can decide what you want to do and discuss that.
Will those be held here?
Well, that's what we're going, so we have to do research on that. Once you decide what you want, then you have to, I'll do the research on it. Find out who's offering them, if they'll come here, so.
And just, I would suggest you look and see if, for instance, if Woodstock is doing the same thing, we could meet with them or Putnam. I'm not interested in going to Southington, so we can all meet at one time.
That's a very good idea, thank you.
To meet in Southington?
The motion on,
No, call the local
the
town.
motion on the table is to authorize Mr. Rice to to sit in on the budget process for the commission. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Mr. Poplawski did, if memory serves.
Yep.
Thank
It's not done yet.
goodness. Hearing no further discussion, and if there's, without objection, Mr. Rice will be authorized to sit on the budget process for the commission. Hearing no objection, Mr. Rice is so authorized.
Congratulations.
And item 8D, we have received the updated Planning and Zoning Commission members list in our packet. Item 9, correspondence. A, minutes of the Zoning Board of Appeals of January 10th was canceled. Mr. Poplawski,
Just going back, so I'm listed on that,
my apologies.
that role as Democrat, but I'm unaffiliated, so I don't know.
You
Correct
were,
that? You don't?
Mis-
That's what Tori will correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Linky,
Mr. Popolowski was put on the commission by the Democrats. So that automatically put him as a Democrat, even though he's unaffiliated. Okay, just like Charlene Langlois, when she came onto the planning and zoning, she was unaffiliated, but she was endorsed by the Republicans. So in all reality, the correct thing is that he was endorsed by the Democrats so they could fill that seat. And that is perfectly okay. That's been a practice that's been going on for as long as I can remember.
Mr. Lanky, the only thing I'm questioning is my political party is not Democrat. That's how it's listed on.
Your political party right now has nothing to do with it, Mr. Popolowski. You were put on the commission by the Democrats at the time because they needed to fill the seat. But that's another discussion for another day, in my opinion.
Check Mr. Slater on that.
Yes, yeah, we will reach out for.
I mean, if it's not my political party, I don't want it to be listed as my political party. It's a nominating party. Two different things, nominating and political.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sorry, thank you for bringing me back to that, Mr. Popolowski.
No, that's fine.
Correspondence, the public hearing notices from the town of Douglas. Any comments on those? Decision from the town of Webster Planning Board. Comment on those. 9E memo from Marla Butt, Quinnebog River Watershed FEMA flood map.
Did anybody get a chance to open that link up? I know I didn't have time. And then do you want her to come and talk to you about it, or do you want her to look at it first? And
I don't think there's any decisions been made by FEMA yet,
No.
as far as what they're doing. I thought, the only thing all we have for Tara is that, we ought to make sure we look at that, if that involves any of our subdivisions, if the river down here now, instead of going to where Dollar General is, it goes up the hill another 100 feet.
We actually have already had an issue with some of the proposed FEMA flood maps relative to the 929 mill, which we're already working
Right.
on. In most other, we didn't flag any other areas in town as being of concern, but there was like a 7-foot jump over there that nobody could figure out, but we've actually, we're working on it.
Is it the 100-year flood plan?
Thank you. And item 9F was the sub-petition for an approval of an eligible facilities request for an existing telecommunications facility at 720 Quinnebog Road, Quinnebog.
Okay, so this one I gave it to you tonight because of the last paragraph. It says you may review substitution, which is right here. It went to the town clerk's office, which I got today, so I have not looked at it. And please submit any comments or concerns to the council within 30 days of this notice. So is this something that you want me to review and to communicate with you via email and have questions, comments? How do you want me to do that?
Mr. Black.
Reading through this, all they're doing is putting a auxiliary power unit in there. And, yeah, and if you read, I recommend you read through that, and if that's all they're doing, God bless
Any
them.
comments or? Okay.
Furthermore, a lot of this stuff, we don't have any say over the siting council
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
They're gonna do it, they're gonna do it.
Well, I just wanted to get it to you today because I got it today and it has a 30 days.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Item 10, signing of Mylars. 10A W Sudika of 1574 Riverside Drive, commercial
So I
building.
just signed off on it, they're good with it, made changes. And it's right here to,
I make a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the Mylar for 1574 Riverside Drive.
Motion made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Krogel, to authorize the chair to sign the Mylar for 1574 Riverside Drive. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none and without objection, the motion will carry. Hearing no objection, the motion carries. Item 10B, in acquisition 286 Thompson Road.
I gave you a copy of the declaration of easement that, going to be filed. Any questions on that before we sign the Mylar? If you want those questions answered, I can answer them. And that's what next month, sign the Mylar, to answer the question.
I didn't look back at the past.
Mr. Valesky.
I didn't look back at the past minutes on this, but what was the stipulations? Was it just the easement?
Yes.
Okay, there was nothing else listed. Okay. Thank you, Cindy.
The motion in order to accept this.
I believe, yeah, to accept this and yeah, sure.
Accept the declaration of easement and obligations for the driveway maintenance for, in Acquisitions Associates LLC.
Okay, motion has been made to accept the declaration of easement. Made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Krogel. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none and without objection, the declaration of easement for In Acquisitions Associates will be accepted. Hearing no objection, the declaration of easement is accepted. Commission wish to take action on the Mylar for In Acquisition 286 Thompson Road.
Have been reviewed. That's all. I move the chair be authorized to sign the Mylar.
Seconded.
Motion made by Mr. Blackmer, seconded by Ms. Salty to authorize the chair to sign the Mylar for In Acquisition 286 Thompson Road. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, without objection, chair will be authorized to sign the Mylar. Hearing no objection, the chair is authorized to sign the Mylar. Item 11, old business, bylaws amendment. This is to,
That's not-
We got
We're
LaValley
gonna do the LaValley
Construction.
construction.
LaValley's.
No, that's.
That's 11C, right?
That was a mistake.
Oh, okay, all right, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you.
so we've got the bylaws. The discussion we had last month centered around the order of business. No other amendments to the bylaws were suggested at that time. Cindy has compiled the order of business as we discussed it at our meeting last month. And additionally, the change to the bylaws necessitated by a change in state statute. So I open the matter to discussion. Mr. Rice.
For the order of business, the item 4, discuss public hearing, I'd like to add /action. We know if that will be taken action for that public hearing.
Yeah, and possible action is, I think,
Possible action.
is how the language of our current agendas read.
What's that, Gloria? Item 6, which was amended, a citizen's comment, speaking time 5 minutes at the discretion of the chairman. I would suggest that we move that to 3 minutes.
Thank you.
30-minute people, maybe till 11.
Yeah,
So
I did think we,
I mean, it's at the discretion of the chairman anyway, so if it's information that we need to hear, then I think you could do, but if it's something that's been discussed by a previous citizen, I think we can listen. listen to it for 3 minutes, and so that's my suggestion for there.
Yeah, I think,
That would be consistent with what the Board of Selectmen's been doing.
That's pretty much what Robert's rule says. so.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
And,
So you started the time in a minute? Is that right? I'm sorry, I had to go in the office to get something.
yeah,
How
so
long did you start?
speaking minutes, it's 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
for both 6 and 14, Mr. Rice.
And number 14, delete that one.
You want
I
to?
have one.
Well,
citizen
delete
comment.
it, it's just that, the thing is, we're gonna have citizens' comments. I'd be interested in listening to, citizens' comments pertaining to agenda items. Okay, but to have a citizen's comment after we've done all the voting and everything's, crossed off, why do you have citizens' comments again?
Because at
Ms.
the
Altsey.
end, I'm sorry, Chairman, at the end of the meeting, the citizens should be able to speak on what they've sat and listened to. If you do it only at the front, they do not have the right to speak on what has been discussed during the whole meeting.
Yeah, but why do you wanna have somebody, we already voted on whatever it is. It's a done
I
deal.
believe there's other boards that give 2 spaces for
No.
people.
Now, look it up on the town, how many boards and commissions have 2 citizens' comments?
Well, let's just put it this way. I want to give the citizens the chance to speak on something that has been taken place during the meeting. If you only have a place to let the citizens speak at the beginning of this meeting, they have to wait until next month to bring it up. And by then, I don't think that's fair to the citizens of Thompson.
We're not gonna
Mr. Rice.
change anything.
Don't
We
think
already
it's fair.
voted on it. So you're gonna tell, I voted on whatever I voted on, and then you're gonna say, hey, I didn't like your vote, and
There are
because
other things that came up tonight that we discussed that weren't voted on, but if the citizens had wanted to talk and not having that second place, they wouldn't be able to speak on it.
they can speak at the beginning.
No, when you go through the end, there are areas here that there possibly would be people that would want to talk on something, and if you only put it at the beginning, they can't. I believe that the citizens of this town should have the right to speak twice. That, we are here for the people, not for what makes it comfortable for us.
Mr. Williams?
I agree with, Mrs. Salsi here because, we got new business on there too.
Yep.
And once that new business comes up, they might have something that they want to speak up on the new business.
Any?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms.
by
Altsey?
cutting the citizens off, you are doing them a disservice. They have the right to speak at these meetings. New business, old business, they should have the right to speak towards the end of the meetings. Period. That is their right. And we're here for them, not for the convenience of us.
Where do you get their right? Where is
As
their right? I mean,
citizens,
they already, they voted somebody in, okay, and they have a right. I mean, they elect us to look for the best interest of the town and the citizens of the town.
Mr.
And
Rice?
hopefully we're doing that.
Mr. Rice, the people of this town have the right to speak, period. Whether they voted you into office 12 million years ago or last week. We have the right to speak, and I'm one of them, and I'm speaking now. Do not take their right away to speak twice at a town meeting. When new business is brought up at the end of the agenda, they wouldn't be able to speak.
Mr. Rice. Mr. Lanky?
Yeah, why did then, if Miss Salsi wants it at the end of the meeting, after old business, new business, then why do we have to have it at the beginning? Why don't we just have it at after all the other stuff has been done, and then they can still speak their mind? And then instead of 3 minutes, give them the 5 minutes, and that's the only time. So it's all done at the end of the meeting. I get what she's trying to say, but if we're gonna use 6 and 14, 3 minutes apiece, that person, we could be there till midnight listening to the citizens. I'll go with it at number 14. Leave it there and take number 6 and take it right out. Then everybody, they get to speak after, like Mr. Williams says, we got old business, we got new business, we got the reports to the staff, the applications. Then they can make all their comments. We'll give you 5 minutes. I'll be willing to give 5 minutes on that, if it's done right there.
Thank you, Mr. Lincoln.
I'm in.
Ms. Celsi, and then Mr. Krogel.
Why is everybody so afraid to let town people speak?
We're
That's
not.
what I want to know.
Mr. Lenke, just one moment, please.
Not only seen it at this board, I've seen it at other boards. Why are you so afraid to let the townspeople speak? It is our town. You may have been elected, but it is the voters' town, and they do have the right to speak once and at the end. And I believe that that should not be taken away from them.
Mr. Krogel?
All right. I don't know what other boards do. I do know the Board of Education has 2 citizen comments, one at the beginning, one at the end. Whether or not the boards listen to the people is up to the boards. I believe that we should have 2 citizens' comments. We agreed to this last month. I don't understand what is changing. I mean, we don't want to hear redundant stuff all the time either. I mean, if they matter us, they matter us. And if they're agreeing with us, that's nice too. But the thing is, they have the right to speak. We do not have to respond back to it. We have to listen to what they have to say. In fact, it's our duty not to respond back to it. So I want to make that, clarified and clear. But I think we should keep both of them in there.
Thank you, Mr. Krogel. Ms. Celsi?
I think I need a clarification on something. Why, when somebody comes forward and speaks, and as Mr. Krogel just said, we don't have to respond to it. What purpose? I mean, you've got somebody in here, obviously, that has questions and or concerns, and you don't respond to it. It's insulting to the person that's come here.
Because we do not wish to give false or erroneous information back at the people during a heated moment and then have it used against the boards.
But acknowledging what they've said and saying that, okay, we will look into this, we will check it out. When you totally ignore them, more or less, it's an insult to
Well,
them.
that would be the chairman's
Okay.
place to say, we will look into this,
Okay,
or
all
we
right,
hear what you have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think,
But for the members to have a discussion with the people in the audience should not be happening at all. Everything is supposed to be addressed through the chair.
To the chair.
the planner's going to make a comment, but I think a perfect example of this is this PA 490 process. Right, Ms. Clark brought this up last month in citizens' comments. We didn't have a
Yeah.
response for her at the
Yeah,
time. The planner looked into it, and now we've got something. So that's the proper.
Proper procedure now. It didn't used to be.
I just wanted to clarify some stuff about comments at all in an agenda. Actually, back when I was a commissioner, we had a guest attorney from one of the, either from CCM or from another group, who actually made a point of saying that citizens' comments are not required on the agenda. And in fact, they recommend against them. Now, having said that, the town of Thompson has a precedent of having citizens' comment. And I don't think that this board is interested in going against that prior precedent. There is also precedent from other policymaking boards for double citizen comments, as Mr. Krogel has pointed out. Mr. Krogel has also correctly pointed out that the purpose of citizens' comments is not dialectical. It's to receive comments. It is not to have back and forth answers to questions, which I understand completely is very, very, very frustrating. But the commission, sort of to go a little more finely to your point, can't really be expected to spontaneously answer questions which may or may not have been a part of their agenda previously. It may require research by the CEO or by me or further action. It is important that the citizens' comments, opinions be received so that the commissioners can take them into account. But that is the purpose of those. And in a public hearing, that's particularly important because even though the commission can't reply to them during the comment period of the public hearing, they are able to consider them in what they do going forward. So just a little clarification.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, don't need a tutorial from the planner, period. I got elected by the people. I am here for the people. I don't care what somebody else is doing, period. I am here to serve the people and do what is right by them. And there are a lot of people in this town that are fed up with not only this board, but several others. And I am doing what I was elected to do.
Do what you gotta
I feel that the two places for citizens' comments is important. I feel you as the chairman should address at the end of the night, those concerns that the citizens have brought up. You don't have to get back into it. You just need to let them know that you are listening to them. Because the meetings that I have attended just recently, very frustrating. You get nothing. And I think that's wrong. And the citizens of this town deserve better. And I'm putting that onus on you, Mr. Parodi Brown. Acknowledge what the citizens have come forward to and that you will take a look at it. That's all that I'm asking. And that there's two places on these agendas for the citizens to speak. Thank you.
Mr. Rice and Mr. Krogel?
Did you get a chance to read the minutes of our last meeting? Do you
Yes, I
have them?
did.
Do you have them with you?
I don't believe that I do. I think
Okay. Would you like me to read this section of that minutes from what Attorney Slater had indicated? Or you don't want to hear it?
excuse me, Mr. Rice, with due respect to you, any attorney that gets up there and says, be careful about letting the townspeople speak, that is an
That
insult.
isn't what he said. You're.
No, I'm not.
Mr. Rice, Mr. Rice.
In
Ms.
a
Halsey,
in a shortened form, that is what he said. He said, be careful about letting the townspeople speak. Period.
Mr. Chairman, can I read what?
Mr. Rice.
What Attorney Slater said? We were discussing that, citizens' comments, okay, and Attorney Slater comment that what the chairman said, absolutely correct, that the Planning and Zoning Commission as a public body is obligated to hold its meeting under the public eye, and people can watch and listen to what the commission does. No one has the right. You hear me? Yeah, no one has the right to be heard on anything unless the chairman decides to give them the right to do so, and that it's entitled to such as a public hearing or a public comment period on the agenda.
I got Mr. Krogel and then Ms.
That
Halsey.
was from the lawyer.
Okay. That is correct. It is not any citizen's right or the board to have to listen to any citizen's comments at all at a meeting. It is not a God-given law or anything of that nature. It is a courtesy that the boards listen to the people. When a citizen speaks and the chairman says, thank you for your comment, that is addressing the fact that we have listened to the citizens' comments. Okay. Now, I've been on that side of the citizens fighting with the Board of Ed when they wanted to get rid of the bus company. Was I heard? Apparently not, because they outsourced anyways. But it is not, many places recommend not having citizens' comments. It is a courtesy that we do have it, whether it be one time or two times, whatever. But the end result is you are to avoid having confrontations with the citizens, which is why they recommend not having citizens' comments in the first place, because you don't have heated moments. We do listen to the people. I think the people should be heard. But again, it's not mandatory that it happens. So by giving them one or two places, I don't want to call it a courtesy. I think we should listen to the people, but it's something that goes beyond.
Ms. Halsey.
Not my first rodeo, not my first meeting, and it won't be my last. And I have attended not only meetings here in Thompson for many years, I've done statewide and I've done DC as well. You call it a courtesy. I think that's the wrong word.
It may be, but
I believe that any individual that lives in a town has the right to be heard. And when Mr. Perotti Brown does say, thank you for your comments, that's not an assurance that something's going to be looked at. That's thanking you for getting up and saying something. I think it should go a little bit beyond that, whereas we will check into this. I can bring up a for instance where we had somebody, Mr. Warner got up tonight and brought up several issues that are concerning to me. And when we get to the point where the commissioner's comments are going to come up, I want to address that. I don't care what other towns do. I don't care what used to be or what is, or this is the way it's been done forever. I don't care about that. I care about serving the people that put me in here in less than 3 weeks on a write-in candidacy. Something's wrong. So I'm here to try and make some changes that will not only benefit the town, will help the commission, and be able to work together, because all that's been done and all that I've seen is aggravation and frustration, including myself. And I do have a tendency to speak rather loudly and rather bluntly. When you work together and people feel that they are being served by the people that are sitting on this board, you're going to see it work a little better. You're going to have a much better understanding between the people, the citizens, and the boards. By ignoring them and telling them, we don't have to respond to your comments, I get it. I've sat on boards where I've been at meetings until 1 o'clock in the morning. But you know what? Those citizens went away with a good feeling. They didn't feel like they were shut out and that people would go ahead on these boards and do whatever they wanted, hence what you went through, Mr. Kroger, with the bus situation. I respect the people of this town. I'm not saying that you don't, but I got hired to do a job and I'm doing it. And I feel that it is not quite enough from this board to just say thank you for your comments. I think we need to do a little bit more. And I think, like I said, I don't sit on the other board. I sit on this board. And I think we need to step up and do a little bit more. Because right now I'm disgusted, especially in light of what has come forward. Thank you.
I think it would be best to vote now on if we, as a commission, wish to have 1 or 2 slots for citizens' comments. So I will, if there's.
Two
What
spots,
was-
please.
What was
So
that?
we-
again?
Well, the vote is for 1 or 2 opportunities for citizens' comments on the agenda. Ms. Altsey,
2, please.
Mr. Williams,
I vote two.
Mr. Rice,
1.
Mr. Poplawski,
2.
Mr. Krogel,
2,
Mr. Blackmer,
1.
Mr. Lanky,
I happen to agree one way and I happen to disagree the other way. You know what? Why don't we let them have their way? 2.
Mr. Hill,
Alvin Hill, 1.
Joseph Purdy Brown, 2. So the two sections for citizens' comments are included in the draft of the order of business that we will shortly vote for at 3 minutes each for the discretion of the chairman. Any other, Mr. Rice?
Article 14, public relations, just that change that section 2 to
Article, yeah, Article 14.
Yeah, so this is the change, the change in the bylaws because of changes in the state statute. It's not a change in the substance of the section, it just changes the citation of the statute.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Blackmer,
in the minutes, and well, I mentioned it at the last meeting, that first of all, we said we're gonna have the agendas on the table, which they are there tonight. But I suggested we have a preamble stating that it's 3 minutes, so they know they have the 3 minutes. And they need to speak. How's that word that? We didn't, go ahead.
No, well, you don't want to limit it to 3 minutes. It's going to be at the discretion of the chairman,
Yeah.
correct?
Well.
3 minutes or at the
and-
discretion. Okay.
So where do you want that word? You want it under the?
It should be right on the top of
Yeah,
the.
this would be printed on the
right on the
agenda.
agenda.
Oh, on the agenda, but it still has to be in the bylaws, right?
Yes.
I thought you meant.
And
Works for me.
something to the effect that, civil language will only be tolerated.
Civility.
Civility,
And to
civility
direct their comments
to
through
the chair.
chairperson.
And, I can find that in the minutes again. I saw it when I read through. But I would like to see that included on the agenda.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll work with Gloria to make sure that happens. Any other further comments on the proposed amendments to the bylaws?
About direct comment to chair in a civil and respectful manner.
Well, comments, when they speak, they want to speak in a civil manner.
I am.
Directed to the chair.
Okay, respectful, fine.
Okay, so
Disrespectful will not be tolerated.
Use your inside voice.
so the changes to the amendment as presented are to add and possible action to item 4 after discussed public hearing. In items 6 and 14, to amend the 5 minutes to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the chairman, and to include the language at the top of the agenda. Mr.
Mr.
Lanky.
Yes, instead of, you got 14, 15, and 16, take review of the ZBA applications, move it up to 14, take 14, move it down to 15, and then 15 down to 16, and then you got 17, next meeting, 18, we're out of here. I think that would be more appropriate.
Is there any, so the suggestion by Mr. Lanky is to move review of ZBA applications immediately after new business, and then move the resulting 14 and 15 each down one. Is there any objection to that?
Review of ZBA would go to 14.
Okay, I got it. I got that now. And
Is there any objection to making that change? Any further questions or discussion on these amendments to the bylaw? A yes vote will amend the bylaws in Article 9, Order of Business, and in Article 14, Section of 2, for those statute citations. No vote will not accept this amendment. Mr. Krogel.
Mike Krugel, yes.
Dick Kozlowski, yes.
All right, yeah.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Randy Blackburn, yes.
Mr. Lanky.
John B. Linky, yes.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. Item 11B, land use training guidelines.
as I said in my memo, but the mandatory training is the affordable and fair housing policy. And then you have the optional training here, 1 to 4. And of course, they were in this in the flyer So is there anything particular that you want to do as a priority? You didn't get your packet? Yeah, what are you working on?
Not from the zoning. I mean, not from the,
You guys didn't get your, oh, your the memo. Oh,
right, the memo.
oh, I emailed it. Saturday.
Okay, 'cause I
Yeah.
I didn't get it,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It was short, so that
Okay.
you didn't
Right.
miss it.
Okay.
It was short this time. So, the optional training are processes, procedure section, planning and running a public meeting, commissioner's conduct, site plan, survey map, and, agricultural, conventions, and but with your suggestion, somebody mentioned that NECOG, maybe that's where I should start, see what NECOG is doing. Start there, but is there anything particular that anybody has a favorite that they want to do for a training session? For an hour, for any, no particular favorite? Okay, so I'll call NECOG. Okay. And then, depending on what they say, then I'll call, I was thinking Concord, Woodstock, Putnam. There's 4 closest towns and see if we can work something together to have sessions together. Okay.
Well, better than
And Killing
Berlin.
Lake.
Yeah, a whole lot.
Well, we do have town cars, so we pay no.
Yeah.
Maybe Killingly also?
Okay, so that works for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Item 11C, La Valley Construction Revised Performance Bond.
There's a copy there, there's staff members that were in the minutes that were approved. Any questions?
Reviewed by Rich, who, I would move we accept this, advice. Approval. Approval.
So with that acceptance, I will send it over to town, board.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. Blackmer, seconded by Mr. Poplawski to approve the new bond amount for La Valley Construction. Any discussion on the motion?
Was that,
Well,
Mr.
Mr. Lanky?
Oh, okay,
that,
that's what
I thought that was all taken care of last month's meeting.
You have to see the bond, you have to see that it was done,
okay.
and so I'm showing you that it was done. and now
Okay.
we-
Okay,
Okay.
just double checking because in the minutes of the last meeting, it was
Thank you,
self,
Mr. Lanky.
my group, but thank you.
Without objection, the bond as presented will be approved. Hearing no objection, the bond is approved. Item 12, new business, no new business. Item 13, commissioner's comments. Ms. Halsey.
Okay, to go to what I said a little bit earlier, concerning some issues that were brought forward by Mr. Warner. I'm concerned about that. I sit on this board now. I wasn't here when those things happened, but I am concerned about it. What do we do about it? There were things that were done illegally, and of course, some of the things that I found myself that were done without quorums and things were voted in. What do we do about that?
All right, first of all, I question whether his comments were all correct. I wanted to get, before we get into a pissing
Okay.
contest here, I
Okay,
wanted to get legal opinion, go back to Mr. Slater and ask him the questions on this, and then we can get Mr. Slater to send him a letter stating what the way it is. If I'm wrong, I'll accept it, but there wasn't any need in me getting in a contest
no,
tonight.
no, I'm asking you
Yeah.
what to be done. So now you are telling me what to be done. Can I address Mr. Warner?
Ms. Halsey, just to answer your question as
Yeah.
well, I had written down,
Okay,
to
you
follow
wrote down all the dates
to
that
follow-
he
to
wrote
follow
up so that we can check and
through the
double check and
through the
recheck.
recording as well. Yeah.
Because if those things were done, that's not good.
Can we get a copy of
Yeah.
this, Mr. Warren? You give Lynn a copy? So So we have an alternate. Not that you're writing down her
Mhm.
minutes.
Well, I would like a copy if we all have, I would like a copy, please.
I will make you, who wants a copy? Raise your hand. Okay.
Might as well make them all.
So now, okay, so now, all right, so we're getting the copy of this because we need to check this out ourselves. I don't believe, I also have a problem with every time something comes up, oh my God, we've got to go to the lawyer. We can check this out ourselves. We can go back in the records and look at these dates that he has brought forward and what took place during these. That is something that then we have a question, then we can take it to the lawyer. But I don't believe that everything that comes up has got to go to the lawyer. I think we need to take responsibility for this commission. And we need to do some in-house looking at this point. That's just a suggestion.
It's important to make sure we get this squared away.
Yes, it is, because there's things that happened, and if this is correct, they shouldn't have happened.
I'm trying to get the answers on that.
Yeah, so we're gonna
Okay.
check into it. Okay, very good.
Mr. Pawlowski.
So I just wanted, Mrs. White brought up a good point. I missed it in the minutes, so I don't know if we're gonna have to amend the motion, but last month, I was actually seated for Charlene, not Brian, as indicated in the minutes. So I had stood back and didn't vote on the Lowell Davis. Until I was appointed, I pulled my chair back up.
Because Charlene had, when Charlene entered the
Because
meeting.
Charlene had entered, I had to,
That's right. you did.
so I just want to, I don't remember who made the motion to accept the minutes, but I think we need to amend it, Gloria, because it's listed as Brian was seated for Charlene, and it was actually me. I don't know if Brian was seated for Krista Nelson, or, I know who I was seated for, so thank you.
It's it. Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lanky.
yes. The first one was for what's her name? Not Charlene, Christine Chattel. Mr. Hill was asked for that, if he wanted to take that seat. You made the recommendation and I seconded it, and everybody voted. Mr. Pope, then you asked Mr. Bryan, it's first right of refusal. Brian
No,
Santos.
Mr. Lanky, sorry. Mr. Poplawski is at the beginning of the meeting,
Oh, okay.
you know, for whom was he seated?
Oh,
He was,
I apologize. Yeah.
no,
okay.
yeah, understood. Yeah.
No,
I don't recall who.
wait a minute.
No,
Hang on,
I didn't vote. I wasn't seated, so I didn't vote on until I was actually appointed.
To fill the,
And vote. Yes,
fill the term.
yes. I just want to be clear on what transpired, and Gloria,
Here
you
it
can just make, I don't know if you have to amend whoever
yeah, no, yeah.
made the motion for the minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lanky,
yes, you got Alvin Hill seated for resigned, Christine Chattel, Brian Santos was seated for Charlene Langlois at the time because she wasn't in the meeting, and Dave Popolowski was seated for Christopher Nelson. It's right here, I got it right here.
so Mr. Poplawski's saying that was mistaken, that Mr. Santos was not seated for Ms. Langlois. Mr. Poplawski was seated for Ms. Langlois.
No,
Because when Charlene came on, Brian sat back.
No, I backed my chair up. I didn't vote on Lowell Davis. If you look back in the minutes, you won't even see a vote for me on Lowell Davis.
Yeah, you did
'cause I
not
wasn't-
vote on Lowell Davis.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is, you know, that we just we revisit the recording, and we put the minutes from the December 27th on our February agenda as well, for possible amendment.
she didn't vote on that because she spoke as on a butter and everything, so all she did was, what was it,
Correct,
She
correct.
abstained, yes.
Yeah, she abstained from that vote.
thing, correct. So that, There you go.
Great. Thank you.
I'm looking
any-
at, oh,
Mr. Krogel?
Are we going to see commissioners' comments right now?
Yes, we are.
I have questions about Northeast Sand and Gravel.
Yeah, so the
Yes.
question,
The question, I understand that they gave another check.
they did, and I checked with Arlen today, and, it's been 11 days, they gave the check, and she likes to wait 2 weeks.
Okay. I would like to discuss possibilities if the check does not clear.
Okay,
I think if the check does not clear this time, that we should request money order, bank check, not a personal check. And I think what might be, could happen, okay, I'm not saying this is happening, I'm not trying to make any innuendos or anything else, but for future references, if this does happen, being a gravel business, it's possible that a person running a gravel company could issue a personal check to the town. They will get their permit to operate. Let's use, they owe $1,000, okay, because I'm not using Northeast Sand and Gravel as the example. I want to make that perfectly clear. So a gravel company gives the town $1,000 for a check. I mean, a check for $1,000 to the town. They now have a permit to operate. A customer comes in and purchases $3,000 worth of gravel. Company sells this man, this other company, $3,000 worth of gravel. The check bounces at the town. What happens to the person with the permit? He pays a fine for the bounced check. Correct?
he pays a fine to the bank.
Okay, and that's the only consequence.
Right.
So he now made $2,000 and he shut down once again until next time.
Okay, but you have a very interesting point there, because the checks stay in my desk drawer until, the end of the month. I bring them up to Donna and she sends them all in. So what I have to do with those gravel operation checks, I have to get them up here. And that was all that.
You
Because
know,
by the time,
just in
by
case,
the
because
time
this
that
is now the
2
fourth
month
time.
process, get that permit. So in that 2 months, we'll know if that check.
In that 2 months, he could sell a lot, somebody could sell a lot of gravel. And then just
No,
pay,
he can't operate until it's approved.
as soon as he gives you a check, you issue the permit.
No.
You wait until the
Oh,
check clears?
That's for renewal. That's
For
for
renewal.
renewal. I understand that. Okay. So the
Okay, in the
renewal-
meantime, this gentleman is in business, making money.
Okay. I misunderstood you for renewal. So we have to make some kind of policy for renewals, make sure those checks clear. Okay, I hear you. But on an actual, the first application.
Yeah, you know, after a while, it's enough
Thank
is
you.
enough.
Okay.
And really, a commissioner's comment, did you say this guy's check bounced 4 times,
No, 3 times.
3 times?
3 times.
He should definitely only be able to give, money orders.
Yeah,
I will check and see what, I wasn't here because I was.
because I know operations are going on.
All I know is that he paid. I was told, because I've been working at home for 2 weeks. And, probably if I was here, I probably would have gone upstairs to see. I really didn't think back and forth, whether it was a bank check. I believe it came from the, I don't know where it came from, so I will check. Okay. And I'll let you know next month.
That one company that should be mandated, anyway.
I mean, after the, you know, if the check bounces, get a bank check.
Thank you, Mr. Krogel.
Thank you.
Any further commissioners' comments?
yes, Mr. Chair. I
Mr.
know you-
Lenke?
I just want to bring up a little issue here. I had some comments made to me Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday about this little 2.5 to 3 minute excerpt from our previous meeting about Low Davis Road, Scenic Road. And it was only the part out of the meeting that was put on Winnie Radio. And I think this is going a little too far about what the 3 people that said no. So whoever did this, I'm not very respectful to that person or persons, But the people that voted yes to make it a scenic road, it's a done deal. Whatever I said no, I made my explanation. I didn't really have to make an explanation, but I said no, because I had certain things that I didn't think that needed to be addressed even more. Now, what the other two said no for, that's their decision. So I want it to be known that I'm not collaborating with anybody and I'm going to be a lone wolf. But I said no for a certain reason. And I explained myself to the person and about a few other people. But these people that I had come up to me said, hey, we heard you were on radio Tuesday morning. I go, you're kidding me. And it had to do with the planning and zoning. So whoever that person or persons did it, I think is being disrespectful to me, especially, and to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemke. Any comment? Mr. Ray.
In response to John's comments, I don't believe anybody on the commission specifically called would.
I didn't say the commission.
Let him continue, please, Mr.
I
Lemke.
think the INY News looks up the recording or the minutes and they extrapolate whatever that happened at the meeting at the thing and they pick out what they want.
Well, it was on the radio. Now, whoever got it on the radio had to be from somebody from the outside. I didn't say anybody from the commission. I am not accusing anybody of the commission. I'm just saying there are a person or persons on the outside is more or less what I meant. And that is, to me, it was voted in, even though my vote was no, but the vote was yes, and it's a done deal as far as I'm concerned. But to put this on the radio on a Tuesday morning around at 7:30, 8 o'clock, I tried to get into the radio, and they said they don't keep that on record for whatever reason. But all of a sudden, it was on Tuesday, and here we are Monday night. So I was waiting to hear somebody talk about it tonight on the citizen comments. That's why I'm bringing it up, because this is what's going on right now. We're being slammed. Enough. Hey, you want to come at me? Fine, bring it on. But I'm trying to do what I think is best for this town. And we all are. And like Miss Salzy said, we're elected, but I'm a property owner as well in this town, like everybody else. I've been born and raised in this town. I know what this town was like from 1955 going forward. We're trying to make this town a little bit better. Let's try to do that. Let's stay together. But this freaking undermining that's going on from 2020 with 363 Quadock Farm Road. Here we go. Enough is enough. Let us go forward. Citizens got something to say, speak up and bring it to us. I'm willing to listen. I'm open-minded. But if people are gonna start doing this, they're creating the problem. And it's not me, and it's not anybody on this commission. We're trying to do what we think is right. So let's just move on. Enough. That's how I feel. Whether you like it or not.
Thank you, Mr. Lemke. Hearing no further commissioners' comments. One more item. Next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting is February 28th, 2022, 7 p.m. right here in the Marlson Lake Community Room. Item 15, Mr. Williams.
Seconded.
Motion
God
made to
bless
adjourn,
you,
made by
Ray
Mr. Williams, seconded by Ms.
God
Salty
bless you for
at
that.
9:25 p.m. Thank you all very much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night,
for coming
everyone.
to-
Good night.